It was 2015 when the Johnson family moved into what they thought was their dream home in a quiet New Jersey neighborhood. The house was large, around 200 years old, 3 stories tall, with creaky wooden floors and ivy crawling up the brick walls. It looked beautiful, almost like it belonged in a storybook, and everything seemed perfect at first. That is, until the letters began arriving. Dean and Maria Johnson had dreamed of this moment for years. After a decade of marriage, they finally had enough money to buy the home of their dreams. It was situated in the sleepy town of West Windsor. The property had been listed for a year without any takers, so the Johnsons took it as a good sign that it was meant to be theirs. When they posted pictures of their new home on social media, their friends were shocked. The place looked straight out of a horror movie. Dean especially loved the home's aged exterior. On their first night in the new home, while tucking their 2 children into bed, the 4 of them couldn't help but agree that it was perfect. But their idyllic life was about to take a turn for the worst. Just a few days later, Maria was taking out the trash when she noticed a letter lying on the doormat. At first, she assumed it was a wrong delivery, but when she bent down to pick it up, she saw that it wasn't addressed to anyone in particular. Only scrawled onto the front were the words, "The Watcher." She showed the letter to her husband, who initially found it funny. The Watcher was dated May 28, 2015, so nearly a month before the Johnsons had moved in. It read, "I have been watching your house for years. It has been the subject of my family for decades. I am the Watcher. Do you know what lies inside the walls?" Maria immediately threw it in the garbage. She simply couldn't bring herself to read it again. Then another letter arrived, and after that, they kept coming. Each one was written on thick, rough paper and smelled faintly of mildew, as if they'd been pulled from some ancient, damp diary. The first letter had hinted at secrets within the walls. The second one detailed the layouts of the entire home. The third told of the family's comings and goings. How did this person know so much about them? "Dear Watcher, who are you? Why are you writing to us? Is there some kind of explanation for this madness? What secrets do you know about us or about the house? You said you've been watching for years. Is this why the house was empty for so long? Did the previous owners also receive your letters? What do you want from us? What do you want? Signed, the new residents." The tone of the letters changed. Some were friendly, some were threatening. "I watched you put the garbage bins out last night. You forgot to put the lids back on. You must have been in such a hurry to get back to your computer games. You look so cute when you're excited. Keep up the good work, keeping me entertained. I can see you all day. You can't hide from me. You think you're safe in your bedrooms. I know what you like to do in there. Daddy plays with his toys. Mommy looks pretty in pink. The children draw pictures. I love it when you draw pictures. Show me yours. Come and play with me forever. Your pal, the Watcher." Maria and Dean felt violated, like every inch of their lives was being monitored. They wondered if the house had somehow been targeted. They researched the history of the house and found it had been built in 1905. The original owner sold it in 1934, then the buyer sold it in 1965, and then it sat vacant until the Johnsons purchased it. Nothing stood out as unusual. All the owners had lived there for at least 25 years, longer than the Johnsons had even dreamed of staying. So why did the home sit empty for so long? They decided to ask the local police for advice, but the officers basically brushed them off, thinking it was just some sick prank. Even the real estate agent who sold them the home had no answers, though she admitted it was strange that the house remained unsold for so long. Meanwhile, things in the house started getting weird. One night, their 6-year-old son came running out of the bathroom, tears streaming down his face. "Mommy, Daddy," he cried, "someone's in the bathroom with me." He explained that he'd gone to wash his hands when he heard whispering behind the wall, followed by slow, raspy breathing. When Dean and Maria asked him to describe the voice, he said it sounded like an old man. They checked the bathroom for a secret passage, but there wasn't one. The only way into the bathroom was through the door. There were no windows. When they opened the wall panel, there was nothing there. Still, they couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling that something was inside the walls watching them. The Johnsons had already spent thousands fixing up the house, but now they were ready to spend whatever it took to find out the truth. Dean ripped down parts of the drywall, determined to get to the bottom of this mystery. Behind the wall was a small, dusty crawl space. Dean managed to squeeze in, but it was pitch black, and the only thing he found was a ventilation shaft leading into the attic. Up in the attic, the air was stale, and the floorboards creaked ominously beneath Dean's weight. He found nothing but cobwebs and a rusty trunk. But when he pried it open, he discovered several old diaries bound in leather, along with a box of old photographs and letters. One photograph in particular sent shivers down Dean's spine. It was taken sometime in the 1960s. The photo showed a tall, slender man standing on the front porch. His face was partially obscured by the shadow of his wide-brimmed hat, but his eyes stared directly at the camera. Dean got the creeps looking at it. He quickly moved on to the letters. One was addressed to Helen and John Blackwood, the couple who sold the house in 1965. The handwriting was spidery, and the ink faded with age. "John and Helen, I hear you're planning to leave. Don't bother locking the doors. Don't bother saying goodbye. You can't hide from me. I'll be living here when you're gone. Yours truly, the Watcher." The same threatening tone from the notes left for the Johnsons. The diary was filled with entries detailing mundane activities. But there was one date in particular that caught Dean's eye, May 28, 1965. The same day, the first letter was delivered to the Johnsons. The entry read, "Arthur passed away in his sleep. I wish I could say I was happy for him, but I'm not. Now I have the house to myself once more. How I've missed it. Silence is golden. No more wheelchair squeaks or muttering to himself. Just me and my thoughts. No one to disturb the peace. At last, it's ours alone. The Watcher." Dean realized that the letters were not just random notes from some lunatic. They were cryptic messages from a ghost. Whoever this Arthur person was, he knew things about the family, and he wasn't shy about letting them know. That's when the police were called in. They searched the house thoroughly, but no intruder was found. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. The house was empty, or so it seemed. The most convincing evidence was the hidden crawl spaces, which the police didn't seem to care about. To them, the case was closed. But the Johnsons weren't convinced. They had a nagging feeling that they were being watched. Then one night, the unthinkable happened. The family had gone to bed when suddenly, bang, 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 loud tapping sounds echoed from inside the wall. Dean grabbed a flashlight and crawled into the crawl space. He wiggled his way through the narrow passage until he reached the sound. To his surprise, it was coming from inside the wall. He struggled to keep calm as he tore away the plaster and wood paneling. There was nothing there. He ripped out more of the wall until he could see a dark hole in the other side. Cautiously, he climbed through, finding himself in the basement. Dean was shaking as he made his way up the basement stairs. Was someone really hiding in his house? What he saw next made him freeze in his tracks. Standing in front of him was a tall, shadowy figure with no visible face, just a dark hood covering empty space. Dean's heart pounded in his chest. He was face to face with the Watcher. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The Watcher raised its hand slowly and beckoned for Dean to follow, but before he could move, the figure vanished, leaving Dean alone in the dark basement. The next morning, the police were called again, but they couldn't find any trace of an intruder. The Johnsons couldn't take it anymore. They abandoned the house, leaving behind furniture, clothes, and memories. They moved away and never returned. But the story doesn't end there. The Watcher was still out there. New residents received letters, too. In fact, the neighborhood seems cursed. To this very day, people move in, the letters start arriving, and they move right back out. Now you tell us, would you dare stay in that house? Let us know in the comments. And thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon.